I think we're live. We're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to BellTube. So it's a big day here, and we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of things tonight. I want to thank you guys for being part of this channel, whether you are a new viewer, maybe in the last week or two, or if you've been here since, really day one, which is about It'll be it'll be 2.5 years come May. So if you've been here the whole time or if you're brand new, absolutely welcome. Today is a crazy day. We launched a Kickstarter, and as you can see on the banner below, there is a QR code up in the top left of the screen, I think. And if you're curious about it, it's definitely I think it works. I tested it, it worked. But you can go to the Kickstarter page and take a look at BellWorks Audio. And one thing that I should say right off the bat is that Kickstarter doesn't really do a great job of explaining that there is a video right on top before you even read what the whole Kickstarter is about. So when you see the BellWorks Audio logo and there's that little green play button, you'll want to hit that if you haven't already, because that really explains quite a bit about what we're doing. My dear friend Jonathan McLean is part of that video. And then below that, there's a second video where five of, some of my favorite booktubers were kind enough to send me little clips in support of what the company is all about. So you'll want to check that out. So far, so good on the Kickstarter today. I'm pleasantly surprised, and it's going to run for 30 days, so no rush. But yeah, rush. Anyway, so I looked at, and I'm going to get to all the comments in a minute because I am famous for getting 3 hours behind in comments, and we won't go that long tonight. But I looked at the last time that I did a one-on-one conversation with just the community and the chat and people tuning in for the first time. And I was flabbergasted. Wow, I used the word flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted to realize the last time we did this, you guys, was back in August. August, that's according to my math, and I'm no mathematician. I think that's 7 months, and that is way, way, way too long. In the since then, we've done one episode of For Whom the Bell Tolls. We did that with Jake from Nerd Level Rising, and I really appreciated him letting me test out if I wanted to do it as a recorded, video versus live, like we've always done them before. And the jury's still out. I haven't really decided yet, but we'll talk about really whatever you guys want to talk about. It's kind of an ask me anything. It's kind of just a hangout in celebration of doing the audiobook company that really I conceived of about 6 months ago. And I happened to read a book over the last few months that triggered me to say, okay, this can be real. This book needs an audio book. And I believe the author is either in the chat or will be in the chat, or maybe he's just lurking. His name's Jeff McIntyre. And the name of the book, if you want to check it out on Goodreads, is called The Garden Gnome. But Jeff is a smart guy. And when we talked a little bit about it, this is not, the Garden Gnome sounds a little bit like cozy fantasy. Actually, it sounds a lot a bit like cozy fantasy, but the book is not cozy fantasy in any way, shape, or form. And he was gracious enough to accept an idea that I had to retitle the book specifically for audio. And his team came up with a great name called The Key Event, which is much, much, much more in line with what the genre of the book is. It's a urban fantasy blend of, like I said, urban fantasy. It's set in Chicago and other parts of the world. There's sci-fi in it. There's mythology in it. There's some Arthurian lore in there. There's government thriller aspects of it. So I read this book and I realized there was no audio, and it made sense that this would really be the first book that BellWorks tried to put together. So I'm going to look into the chat now. And one of the things that you should know about my setup here is that I look over here at a monitor so I can see chat. So when I'm looking this way right at the camera, I can't see anything other than chat is escalating and I'm getting further and further behind. But like I said, feel free to ask me whatever you feel like. We're just hanging out tonight. That is completely cool. I can't believe it's been 7 months since we've done this last. I am going to scroll back up and start with one of my favorite authors and one of my favorite human beings on the entire planet. The iconic, the one and only Janny Wirtz says, "Hey, Brian, let's go." I just finished one of Janny's books. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I finished Trader's Knot, which is book 7 in the Wars of Light and Shadow. Janny does not disappoint. And I will say this, I'm saving my whole kind of thoughts on this for Saturday when we do a big group discussion. And I'm going to do a whole series review when we finish this up towards the end of the year. But this is epic fantasy in a way that I haven't read before. And I've read the biggies, right? Malazan I finished, Wheel of Time I finished, Realm of the Elderlings I finished, Dark Tower I finished. I've read a lot of the biggies, and this does different stuff. And it's really transformative in terms of my reading experience. And I like to sometimes think I know where a story is headed. I don't know where the story is headed half the time, and it's in the best possible way. Not like I'm confused and I don't know what's going on. It's that at every turn, something happens that I didn't expect in a really good way. So, Janny, welcome. You're amazing. Scott, hello. Hey, Brian. Congrats, my friend. Need to hop in and get my donation done. Whatever you can do. By the way, I should say this too regarding the different levels of Kickstarter. There's 9 different levels. I think the least expensive one is $5. So less than a cup of coffee at a neighborhood coffee store, you can support the Kickstarter. It goes all the way up to crazy amounts if people want to get crazy, but certainly not expected at all. I wanted to make this so we could, involve everybody. So I think you can even throw $1 in per Kickstarter's minimal rule. So that's available to you. All right, where are we here? Speak of the devil, Jake from Nerd Level Rising. Hello, hello. And apologies for calling you jerk on my video from last Friday. I don't know. Was it subconscious, Jake? I don't know. It could be. Steven, good evening. Hello to you too. I'm going to try to read as many comments as I can tonight because that's what we're here for. I have no agenda. I know that surprises absolutely nobody that I am ill prepared. Although I will say 2 things that are different about this when I do compared to when I do For Whom the Bell Tolls. 1, I'm not wearing a tie, which is far more comfortable. 2, when I do For Whom the Bell Tolls, I always have like 3 pieces of paper sitting in front of me to keep the conversation going and to know what I'm going to talk about. But we are freewheeling it tonight. Tabitha, hello, hello, and congrats on your expansion of your 2 channels. I saw those videos and it's really cool. You guys should check her all out. And Nerd Level Rising says, proud early supporter of BellWorks, not even really an audio guy, but this is such a great idea. Thank you so much. I did notice that today, and it definitely means a lot. Speak of the devil himself, author Jeff McIntyre. We're going to try to get his book made, you guys. I am fired up for it. I think you guys are going to love it. And you know what's really funny? Before I read this book, and I'll just share this candidly because I've told this to Jeff, is I have 2 booktuber friends who I respect tremendously. They have really analytical minds. And I wasn't sure if I was going to read this book right away or not. And I saw a couple of people that I know that had read it and both 5-starred it. And I messaged both of them. I said, is this as good as, you claim it is, or are you just being kind to an indie author? And they're like, no, it's really good. You should check it out. So yeah, Jeff, welcome. All right. Thribix, evening, folks. I'll never be able to pronounce your name right. Coming live from the wilderness, ladies and gentlemen, in his cabin, writing a manifesto. Hello, TF. BellWorks. Hey, Brian. He's writing that manifesto. That could be a book. You never know. Stephen, I will definitely be supporting the Kickstarter. Thank you so much. That's really nice. Zeta Green says, hello, congrats on this new adventure. Thank you. If you guys watch the channel, I'm all about trying new things. And it's interesting on the Kickstarter itself, there's an FAQ, and I tried to come up with some of the questions that I thought were going to be the most commonly asked questions. And I'll just do one of them I'll do two of them real quick. One of them, the biggest question that I've been asked so far is how come I don't get an audiobook when I back the Kickstarter? There's two reasons. Number one, we are going exclusively through Audible because they pay it the highest percentage of royalties to the publisher, which allows me to pay the most amount of royalties to the author, which is really, really important to me. So because they have a rule, I can't just give away the audiobooks. Yeah, I'll probably get a few codes, but I can't make it as part of the reward. So, okay, I had a thought. How about if people backed at a certain level and they showed like a proof of purchase, like, hey, I got the audiobook with an Audible credit, or I just bought it right out. I would then reimburse that person who pledged that level for getting the audiobook, which Kickstarter promptly put the kibosh on and said, I'm not allowed to do gift cards and I'm not allowed to do reimbursements. So between Audible and Kickstarter is really the reason why there's no audiobooks in any of the tiers. But please do understand it's for the benefit of the authors that I'm doing it this way, so we can get them the most amount of royalties possible. And as much as I've complained about Amazon on this channel, and you all know I have, they pay, that's where the buyers are. First of all, that's where the buyers are. And I think that's all that needs to be said there. The other question that I'll answer was actually the last question on the FAQ was, well, what happens if this doesn't fund? And the answer is, well, we tried. I mean, we don't know until we try something. All of my one for the roads are essentially something of that nature. And we'll say, you know what, we tried. And if there's other avenues to pursue, to make this happen, then terrific. But this is absolutely worth a try. And the feedback that I've received from people in the community and from people in IRL for me has been overwhelmingly positive. So I am optimistic. Okay, where are we? Mike is probably laughing his ass off right now watching this because he knows how far back behind I get on these. Grifkin says, is it really one-on-one when there are 26 of us in the chat? I don't know. It's a good question. Joanna, hello. Cheers to you and to this launch. Brian, thank you so much, Joanna. And thank you for reposting that in the Fireside Discord. Tolfer's Library says, let's go, Brian. That's another cool channel that is relatively new to me, and it's an excellent channel. And every now and then I'll find a channel that has somehow fallen through the cracks that I just, for whatever reason, they didn't show up on my homepage or whatever. But I have subscribed to his channel because it's really good. What do we got here? Okay. And by the way, if I read anybody's names wrong, I apologize because my monitor is just really far away. Anyway, so Janice says, congrats, Brian. We'll be backing this project. This is such a great idea, and you are definitely the right person to get this going. Thank you so much. That is super kind of you. And yo, B, you didn't send me. I told you, Mike, I'm just doing a one-on-one tonight. Mike was gracious enough to be willing to come on, but I think he misunderstood because I just wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with you guys and not force fellow booktubers to come on camera just to support this. So maybe when the thing funds and we'll have a celebratory party or whatever, I know Mike will definitely be involved. And Mike, I'm telling you, man, get that acting voice together, brother. You could do this. I'm telling you. Oh my gosh. So funny. And again, I'm trying to figure out, okay, comments between people. All right, an IRL friend. So stoked to make this live stream. Hello, everybody. What's up, Ryan? This guy is not only a phenomenal reader. This guy, for all you Black Company fans out there, this gentleman has been trying to get me to read the Black Company for 20 years. So now that I'm done with Malazan, maybe it's time I dip my toe into the Black Company. And we know I won't dip my toe. I'll go full board into this thing. I just don't know when. But he's also a Velvet Lounge tier member. And yeah, text me like this week, my friend, and I want to do a call with you, and we'll get Philip on the horn like I promised, and we'll talk some Malazan. All right. Where are we here? Delicio, one of my favorite names, says, congrats on the launch, Mr. Bell. Thank you so much. And where are we here? K Fox, hello, hello. She was supposed to crush me in Book Jeopardy on Alan's channel last Sunday or the Sunday before that, but it's been pushed back a little bit due to some scheduling. But one of these Sundays coming up, I think in March, you're going to have the opportunity to watch K Fox and Amanda from Library. I think it's Shelf Unstable is what it is. Absolutely destroy me in the Library of Alexandra's Book Jeopardy. It's going to be so funny. Joanna says, oh no, Philip AP and I are going to be behind everyone else on the Wars Live chat. I know. I talked to Philip about it I think over the weekend, saying that I couldn't believe he was already at like book 7 and I hadn't started, and now I am past everybody. All right, where are we here? Grifkin says, Brian, congrats. I wish you all the success. Thank you, Ed. You are the greatest. Look at this. Philip, 3 cheers for BellWorks Audio. I can't stay right now, but I'll be back later. Philip, thank you for the support. You are a true brother, as is Mike and John for sure. Good luck with the campaign. Brian, Tyson, thank you so much for your support earlier today. Oh my God, I am that far behind in chat. Definitely am a jerk here, not a jerk. Ah, you're welcome, Tabitha. Okay, where are we here? Also, Tabitha says, congrats on this endeavor. Looking forward to everything you've got in the works. Yeah, me too. It's weird having 2 TBRs, you guys. You know, managing one is weird, but I've kind of turned the curation TBR into my morning activity, and then my actual reading for myself and for BellTube more in the afternoons and evenings and stuff like that, and on the weekends. Tony says, congrats on the Kickstarter, rooting for your success. Thank you so much. That really, really means a lot. Topher says, I appreciate it so much, the heart behind it and the courage to take a step out and try. Yeah, you're right. Mike says, oh, I'm an idiot. Listening has never been my forte. Mike, come on. I mean, when it comes to the village idiot in the Quilluminati, you know it's not you. And you know it's not the PhD. And I'm not taking that role. So by default, there's really only one it could be. All right. And he still supports our audiobooks. Yes, he does. I get him. I get him. And once again, Philo says, done. So stoked to try and contribute to your success. You're one of my favorite humans and have never steered me wrong on book recs. Can't wait to see what you throw at us. They're going to be good. Evie, Brian, I switched back to I did switch back to StreamYard, and I was on a piece of software called Evie Mux for a long time. And the problem is that 4 times when I tried to go live with guests, it wouldn't connect to YouTube. And what that means is you can't just log out and try again. You have to delete the entire YouTube stream. So if there's people waiting in chat, you had to go back and start a whole new YouTube program, and the people in the chat have no idea you're already on another basically viewing channel. It's convoluted, but yeah, I had to do it. Evie Mux had let me down too much, but Evie, you never let me down. See how I did? Yeah, terrible. Okay. John A. Douglas, an author. Hail and good evening. Congrats on the launch. Thank you so much. All right. We've got BellWorks Audio arriving like the winged hussars. Okay. Very cool. Josh from Red Fear Book says, hey, everyone, just back to Kickstarter. Looking forward to seeing this project take flight. Thank you so much, Josh, and thank you for contributing to the testimonial video. It was awesome. You were the first person to submit me your clip, and you and I are very simpatico when it comes to that. Someone asks us to do it, and we try to get it done as quickly as possible, because otherwise we will absolutely forget. All right. Where was I here? Evie says, I was just typing a deprecating joke. You beat me to it with your anti-deprecating comment. Oh, did I catch up in chat already? Oh my God. That's fantastic. So yeah, we could talk about whatever you guys want. If you've got questions, throw them at me. If you've got general statements, I'll read them on screen so long as they're not incredibly divisive. It's been a lot going on here, I have to say. Finishing Malazan in January felt really good. And yes, I know there's novellas in the Esselmount books, and now Erickson's got, the new series he's writing. But to have finished the main 10 books of the Book of the Fallen, it just felt really good because I remember in 2021 when I finished The Wheel of Time and I was staring at Gardens of the Moon and I had this huge book hangover from reading. When I did Wheel of Time, I read the whole thing in sequence without breaks. And it took about 3.5, maybe 4-ish months. But I just said, okay, no more big, epic, gigantic fantasy for at least a year. And that year turned into kind of like 4 years. But yeah, wow. I mean, when people say that the crippled god is everything it's cracked up to be, they're not kidding. Because I was not the hugest fan of book 9, Dust of Dreams, but after reading The Crippled God, I actually really liked Dust of Dreams in hindsight. So in Stephen Erickson in the beginning of Dust of Dreams says in the author's forward that this is not a complete book. This is really intended to be part 1 and The Crippled God is part 2, which makes a ton of sense when you've completed the series. And I had some mixed reactions to Toll the Hounds. As many of you guys know, I lost my mom it's going to be a year come March 30th already, which is bonkers. But hi, Mom, if you're listening, but I'm sure she is. But Toll the Hounds is super themed in grief, so to speak, because Stephen Erickson's father had just passed and he had written it while he was in the grieving process for his dad. And it was just a really heavy book for me to read at a time. And it's kind of a challenge because I was on book 8 of this series that, like, if those events happened in like book 2, I probably would have set the series down for a while just because I wasn't in the right headspace for it. But because I was on book 8 already, it was like, you know what, I can power through this and I can finish what I started. And I'm really glad I did because I 100% enjoyed my time in Malazan. It is 100% going to be in my top 10 fantasy series of all time. I'm gonna make that video relatively soon, with the caveat that I might have to do another one at the end of the year when I finish the Wars of Light and Shadow, because that's going to be in there too. I just don't know where yet, and I can't like omit that. We'll figure it out as we go. Okay, where are we? We had some questions. And as I ramble, as I do, finishing Malazan, the 10-book series, is a major accomplishment. You should feel good about it. Well, thank you, Jana. I do feel good about it. Those books require cognitive focus. They are not light reads. And to top it all off, I read it concurrently with the Wars of Light and Shadow. So, every other month I'd switch back and forth between series, and both of those are mental lifting in a good way, but it takes effort, and you're going to read page counts a little bit less per hour than you would if you read a Hybrid Helix book or Dungeon Crawler Carl or something that's much lighter of a read, but don't regret either one of them. Dumb question. No AI will be involved in BellWorks Enterprise, right? Yeah, absolutely. There'll be no AI whatsoever. If you watch the video on the Kickstarter page, that very top video that's got me and Jonathan McLean, I expressly state my views on AI in the audiobook space and really in the creative space in general. There's going to be nothing used. No AI writing, obviously. No AI voicing, obviously. We are only going to the best of the best narrators. The editing team is not using AI. The artwork is not going to be AI because a lot of these books exist as physical books maybe already, but we have to make some adjustments, for the audio format. None of that will be done with AI. We have an art director at BellWorks ready to go for those kinds of things. So no AI whatsoever. All right. Scott did have a couple of questions. Sorry if you've already addressed these. Fire away. I'm here to answer questions. Topher, I'm starting Malazan this month. Enjoy the ride, my friend. I will say, because everybody says, well, you're not done with it because you have to go back and reread the whole series immediately. One thing that I did on Jimmy Nuts's recommendation is I went back as soon as I finished The Crippled God. I immediately read the prologue of book 1, Gardens of the Moon, and it comes back full circle. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever read, really. So enjoy your journey through Malazan. You're gonna have some ups and you're gonna have some downs, and you're gonna have the I don't know what the hell is going on moments, and you're gonna have everything in between. But it is the most unique epic fantasy story I've ever read. It's certainly the most imaginative. It's the most imaginative thing I've ever read. And I've kind of talked about Malazan is almost like you're going to go on Scott Steven Erickson's vision, and you're along for the ride. And I really feel like he wrote those books for himself, and you get to join along his ride, but he's not at any time really thinking about, I don't believe consciously, well, how is the reader going to interpret this? I think that that's really secondary. You're along for the ride, and it is quite a ride. And yeah, give yourself time to read it. You don't have to rush it like I did. Mike says, if you need someone to voice the village idiot, I feel like that's the role I've been waiting my whole life for. You never know. You never know. Someone write a book with a village idiot. We got a guest narrator. And Scott, the Bald Booktuber, which you should check out his channel, by the way. It is a relaxed, low-key booktube channel. It's one of the first ones that I found. The first channel I found, by the way, obviously was Mike's book reviews, and then through Mike's Discord and through just people that Mike would have on his channel, I found Scott the Bald Booktuber. And if you are in the mood ever for just chilled out, sitting on the chair, talking about books, that's a great channel to go to. I get a little manic in my videos sometimes, which I can absolutely understand that it might be over the top for some people. But if you just like laid back, chill, we're going to talk about some books. The Bald Booktuber is a great channel. All right. Will these primarily be single author audios? And will the audiobooks produced be WhisperSync enabled? Yes, they will be WhisperSync enabled as far as it can sync. We may have a challenge with this first one. I don't know, because the print title is different than the audiobook title. So I don't know in ACX if we could match up the WhisperSync. For anybody who doesn't know what WhisperSync is, let me explain. When you buy a book on Audible, it will have an option to enable WhisperSync. So if you are, say, reading on an e-reader or something like that, and you leave off on page 105, the WhisperSync, when you go to the audio, will start where you left off on your e-reader. So it's a way to do immersive reading, both in sight reading and in listening, and it knows where you are in the story. So generally speaking, yes, but because this first book is going to be retitled for audio, I need to find out a little bit more about that, whether it will be enabled or not. Will these primarily be single author audios? I don't know exactly what that means. So maybe clarify, and I will answer that. Oh, you did clarify. First, I'm going to say thank you to Janny. Janny's ambitious. Brian is ambitiously crazy. I am, no doubt. Although, I mean, let's get back to this for a second, because ambitiously crazy is one thing. Realizing you're going to write a magnum opus epic fantasy story and then realizing you need to know everything there is about ships and everything there is to know about horses and everything there is to know about everything else that's in the Wars of Light and Shadow. She didn't like go around and interview people. She went and took jobs and lived these experiences in order to properly write this series with firsthand knowledge. So I'm ambitiously crazy from the comfort of my living room. Jenny Wirtz is ambitiously ambitious for just her craft and her art. Scott says, I meant single narrator audios. Maybe. There will be opportunities where there's going to be multi-narrator cast. In some regard, it depends on the length of the book, and in some regard, it depends on who the authors are, or not the authors, the narrators are that I have in mind. There's the whole point of me doing this is, and the tagline of the company is curated stories and crafted voices. And I'm almost trying to be like a wine sommelier, where if you're in a fancy restaurant, then sometimes if they've got a sommelier, which is a fancy title for somebody who has taken some exams and understands wine in and out and knows what they pair with perfectly with whatever meal you ordered. I'm trying to be basically a narrator audio sommelier, so to speak, where when I read a book, I can immediately envision who the perfect voice actor would be. So in the case of most books, generally speaking, they're going to be single narrators, but there's a potentiality that if I think this really requires more than one person and I specifically know who they are and I hear to them in my mind, then yeah, that is a potential for sure. I also think narrators are going to want to participate with BellWorks because they're going to get paid pretty well over here. I've done my homework on rates and I've done my homework on royalties and all of that stuff. And it's very important to me that the creatives get paid as much as possible. Yes, I want my company to do well too. We've got to make profit because otherwise it's hard to continue. But there is space for authors to do quite well here. And there's definitely space for the right voice talent to do quite well here. And I want everybody excited about it. So yeah, that's all part of it. All right. Evie says, speaking of DCC, I'm about 300 pages into The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. Very cool. It's so hard for me to remember what happens in each of those books. They all sort of mush together a little bit, but I know I like that one a lot. I know I loved The Butcher's Masquerade. I was a little mixed on This Inevitable Ruin, which I know surprised some people, but it was weird because there's a lot of military aspects to this imaginary ruin, or inevitable ruin, I should say, which is book 7 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I'm reading, The Wars of Light and Shadow, and I'm reading Malazan that has huge military epic fantasy in it. And it really drew a stark contrast to where Matt Dinniman's wheelhouse is. He is top tier, S tier. There isn't anybody better when it comes to lit RPG in general, but when it comes to incorporating large scale epic military conflicts, I think that's maybe not entirely in his wheelhouse, at least as much as some of the more close in, zoomed in things that we get in the earlier books. Then again, that could also be me unfairly comparing him to Erickson, who, honestly, who's better at huge, giant, epic battles than that. So, absolutely. Mike says, I lulls when I get accused of using AI. Man, I barely know how to use Google. All that stuff is out of my element. Yeah, I don't know. Tell you, the only times I've ever really, really used AI is like, I'll take like I was over at my parents' house and their security system was making weird noises, and I took a photo of it and I uploaded it to Chat GPT, and I was like, what is this doing and how can I fix it? And it says, oh, well, that's a blah, blah, blah model number, whatever. And you hit this buttons in sequence and it will stop. and it was correct. So for informational things like that, that's one thing, but on the creative piece, not a bit. Daniel's here. Hello. Good evening, one and all. Very excited about BellWorks. Thank you. Max Scarfield's here. All the best of luck with the launch, Brian. Thanks, Mac. Glad you're here. I know it's late your time for sure. And where are we here? Janny says, my kind of people. Absolutely. Philip says, perfect voice narrator for any book, Rick Thunder. All right. So maybe that's what I should have said. If to the frequently asked question, what happens if it doesn't fund? Well, then we can't afford a professional narrator and we just turn the whole thing over to Rick. I don't think our authors are going to dig that much, but hey, you never know. Find the right book for Rick Thunder. Could be a hot tub manual, could be a rock and roll memoir, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Entropy says, how are you handling audiobook rights? Does BellWorks hold the IP co-production with the author or on split royalties? Yeah, so what will be happening is BellWorks will acquire the audio rights to the book. BellWorks is me for now and the art director that I mentioned, but we're not interested in the print rights. Anybody can take their print book anywhere they want. If they want to self-publish it, terrific. If they want to go to an indie or a more traditional publisher for their print books, ebooks, written, anything, that is outside of what we're doing. The only thing we're interested in is the audio rights. So we're acquiring the audio rights and then paying the narrators. We're paying the authors back in terms of royalties. And each royalty is going to be dependent on the book and the author and our relationship that we build together when they get started with our company. Because candidly, I will say that probably the first 5 or 6 authors, should this fund properly and we can really get this company going, they're going to get maybe a little bit of a higher royalty rate as kind of an early adopter and believer in BellWorks Audio as a company, as we may do down the road 2, 3, 4 years from now, provided that we're successful. Because I want to reward confidence and I want to reward somebody that says, hey, you know what? I'm willing to take a chance that Brian will work hard for my book, which I will. And I think in some regard, I've proven that on BellTube, where I work hard to talk, spread the word about a lot of books that I love for no compensation whatsoever, really. I mean, AdSense is nothing. I mean, talk to any booktuber. It's not like, we're retiring on YouTube. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, follow up and I'll try to answer it as well. And Scott says, that's wonderful news about WhisperSync. I enjoy both single and multi narrations, so that's cool too. Yeah, I like multi narrations as well. I don't listen to a lot of books that have them. Most of the books that I listen to, for whatever reason, have had single narrators. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got so excited to do this, because I have found voice actors that are truly actors and can perform at every level. They can do all the accents. They can do men and women. They can do all the different age levels. And I think it gives me a little bit of an advantage in so far as I haven't listened to people that really are kind of a one-trick pony and they do kind of one thing really well, but they do a lot of things really well. I mean, if you can imagine somebody going on stage and performing an entire one-man show or one-woman show for 15 to 20 hours, playing every single character in the show, that's the level of talent that these voice actors have. It is no joke. I think sometimes narrators, or if we're calling voice actors, whichever, their skill level is so underrated, because if you are watching a TV show and your favorite actors on that show, they have to learn one role and they've got to learn a certain amount of lines. They got to get into character, or it could be a movie or whatever, and that's their role. But when it comes to narration of an audiobook, they have to do every role. And that skill set is insanely high bar if you're going to get the best of the best, which is what we are going to do at BellWorks. Rick Thunder should narrate Armageddon read by George R. R. Martin. I will snort with you there, Jenny. That's funny. And yeah, Brad says, does that mean Rick Thunder reigns? Maybe, maybe. And Digit Digit Digital Darn It says, you can trust Brian because he uses a Shure SM, yeah, 7. I think it's the SMB7, maybe. Yeah, I like how this one. I actually have, if you're somebody noticed the microphone, I actually have a cloud lifter amp connected to this before it hits my audio input as well to give it a little bit of extra oomph. Because I heard a long time ago that when you do a YouTube channel, the most important thing that you can have is decent audio, because such a huge percentage of people, particularly when it comes to like a talking head video, and I mean, come on, look at me, I'm fine, but it's not looking at people's sexiest man of the year, Philip Chase over here. So audio has to sound really good. So that was really one of the first things that I did when I started the channel, is to make sure that the audio sounded good so people could listen to it in their earbuds. Daniel says Discovery was really good with all its different narrators. Yeah, they had 7 narrators on that. And that makes sense to do it in that way, because there's a lot of stuff from a lot of different POVs from a lot of different regions of the world in Discovery, and they wanted it to feel as authentic as possible. And they work with Podium, and Podium was able to, throughout their vast array of voice talent, find people that are either from those regions or have done all kinds of stories with those proper accents, and they decided to do it that way. And I think it was a great idea. I interviewed, hang on, I'm drinking from my Rick Thunder. That's a fact pint glass, by the way, available in the merch store. Wouldn't be me if I didn't shamelessly plug the merch, even though I have a QR code and a banner running throughout the screen. But yeah, so I got to interview all those voice actors. I think all of them but 2. And they're really cool people. Some of them have expressed some interest in working with me as well. So it's kind of fun. All right. And it says your audio is the best on BookTube, bar none. Well, thank you. I think that there's some people that have the audio really dialed in tremendously. But again, this is really 2 things, 3 things, whatever the timbre of my voice happens to be, the microphone itself, and the cloud lifter amp, which is trying to uh, lift everything up. Tony asks a question. If you had a dream book for BellWorks, what would it be? Gosh, I don't know. That's a really difficult question, because most of the books that I absolutely love already have an audiobook. So it's hard to say a book that I love that isn't forthcoming. Like, there'll be an announcement later this week about a series that's got 2 new audiobooks coming out. And I happen to love that series. And I suspect the rest of that entire series will be on audio. But there's very few books that I've read that I have said this needs an audiobook without like thinking about doing this company. So that would kind of confine my thought process really to the last 6 months, when this became kind of a light bulb in my head of something that I wanted to do. Because I wouldn't say a year and a half ago I'd be reading a book saying, oh, I wonder if there's an audiobook for it. The thought hadn't occurred to me. So if I had a dream book, I can tell you, initially for year 1, this is going to be a very boutique company. I do not want to do tons and tons and tons of books and throw them all out there and see what works. That is a great strategy for a much bigger company, because that's what happens. They'll put out 100 audiobooks. If 5 of them are hits, it pays for the other 95. I don't want to do that. I really want to curate the right stories. So as a general kind of sensibility, what I'm looking for right now are generally fantasy and fantasy subgenres or science fiction. Lit RPG absolutely counts as a fantasy subgenre because I am very familiar with what makes a good lit RPG audiobook. But I would like them to be somewheres between about 100,000 words and 200,000 words. The reason why is that at about 100,000 words or so, you get to about a 10-hour audiobook, slightly more. And how that matters is that this is something that maybe you guys don't know, but I'll share it with you here. I won't be setting the price of these books on Audible. The narrators won't be setting the price. The authors won't be setting the price. The overlord at Amazon set the price. Okay. And they have different price brackets, and they tend to be based on how many hours that particular book is. Now, obviously, if they have big deals with huge traditional audiobook companies, they are going to, Random House is going to be able to say, hey, this is what we want this to list for. And they're going to say, fine. Or if they have companies, that put out tons of books on their platform, like a Podium, that, has a little bit more influence, that says, this is where we'd like to see the retail list price. They'll probably take that more into consideration than somebody like me who's brand new, that just has to go by whatever the standard list pricing is. So I'd like them to be, if possible, at least 10 hours of audio, because that puts us in a little bit of a higher price tier, which ultimately means the author gets paid better because there'll be more royalties coming in off of a higher price. Their split's going to be a higher number than if it's lower. So I hope that makes sense. Regarding why 200,000 words is sort of where I want to kind of cap it, but nothing's in stone, right? Because this first book that we're doing is slightly under 100,000 words. And so everything is kind of up in the air a little bit, and there's exceptions to every rule. But once you start to get over 200,000 words, or in an epic fantasy, 3, 4, 500,000 words, the production cost gets really expensive because we are not using kind of entry level audio talent. We're using already existing S tier, A tier voice talent. And that's expensive. Their per hour rate is more than somebody who's just getting started in audio. And God bless people who are just getting started in audio. That's not really what we're going to focus on at BellWorks, because we're going to be boutique. We're only going to make so many books a year. So they have to be done by the best of the best. And also, when that happens, you'll find that a lot of people discover audiobooks on Audible based on who's narrating them. So if we get some of these higher, well-known names in the audiobook space, people click their name and they see what the most recent book they've read is, and that gives our authors a lot more discoverability than they otherwise may not have had. So my point is that really long books will cost a ton of money on the BellWorks side to make, which is worth doing as the company grows and has some cash reserves to do those kinds of things. For now, the ideal range is like 100,000 to 200,000 words. 100,000 for the pricing on audio or on Audible, 200,000 to try to keep the production cost to a level that isn't going to just handicap the company right out of the chute, if that makes any sense. All right, I have to roll back to comments. I apologize for my long answer. Brad Miller says, can't think of the narrators off the top of my palmate, the husband and wife team that did the entire Wheel of Time. Yeah, Michael Kramer and Kate somebody. It's not his wife. I can't remember her last name, but I read that in physical book. So I did. Kate Reading, maybe? I don't know. A redo of the Hyperion books. Yeah, I'm guessing the traditional publisher that has the audio rights is probably not going to let me do that. Wait a minute here. Dark Side of the Moon or Wish You Were Here? I can tell a lot about you by your answers, so think carefully. Tough question. I'm going to say Wish You Were Here. just because Shine On You Crazy Diamond is my favorite Pink Floyd song. However, Eclipse at the end of Dark Side of the Moon is incredible. And one of the first rock and roll songs I ever learned how to play on the piano was The Great Gig in the Sky. So that's got a sentimental place in my heart. But just Shine On You Crazy Diamond for that reason alone. There you go. Mike says, see, I think I'd be a good audiobook narrator, but only real feedback I've gotten is from my kids. They tell me I'm good, but they don't know any better. That's not true. I have listened to you do A Christmas Carol, and it was excellent. So, like I said, there's exceptions to every rule. There's exceptions to the size of the book. There's exceptions to the experience level of the audiobook narrator, especially if they're in the Illuminati. Just saying, okay, might have an advantage. And Scott says the wall because picking a third option. Okay, okay. Where are we? Everyone's talking about Pink Floyd, so I hope Joanna's in the chat because she is a gigantic fan. Janny Word says, Brian, this endeavor is going to be spectacular. All the right reasons, all premier thought and care. Thank you so much. I've just kind of always been of the opinion that if everybody on the team is as happy as they can be and fairly compensated, that makes for a really strong team. And I think boutique is the way to go on this. It also saves me some mental space too, because I can't imagine coordinating timelines of a lot of different books going on simultaneously as just sort of a one-man band along with my graphic art director. So I think for now, this is absolutely the way to go. And it's funny too, because I've actually had some people volunteer to read some of the submitted materials to BellWorks as potential books that we might be interested in. So I will say that if you happen to be watching this, I am looking at different books. And if you're writing in the fantasy, lit RPG, or sci-fi space, and you think it might be of interest to me, send me an email on the bellworksaudio.com contact form. It's just a temporary placeholder website right now, as we are currently building the actual real website, but at bellworksaudio.com, and I'll link it, after the stream in the description. You can say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I've wrote a book about so-and-so. And if this is of interest to you, here's my email and let's talk. And really, that's how I met Jeff. So I think that's a very valid way to get a hold of me. And like I said, I've actually run into some people that have been willing to take a look at some of these books alongside me too. But again, at least the first year or two's worth of books will be personally curated by me. And even if other people take a look at it, it'll mostly be a weeding out process. If we put out a book and all of a sudden we get a lot of submissions, more than I can personally read, there'll be people that will look at the first few chapters and say, yeah, Brian should read this. And then it'll get to me. And then I'll either kind of say, this is great for us, or this is great for a different company. Okay. Where were we in the comments? Kate Reading. Thank you. I got it right, even though I haven't. Sorry. Why? This is a hangout. We could talk about, there's a very famous booktuber that has a talk about nothing show. This is a talk about anything show. So whatever y'all want to talk about, I am cool. It doesn't matter. We don't need to just talk about the audiobook company, although clearly that is a focus tonight because we launched the Kickstarter today. Brad says, Brian, do you plan on YouTube updates, at least as far as production, if not actual story, as you progress? Yeah. So there will be YouTube updates for sure, as the company moves along, provided that it funds in the first place. I take nothing for granted. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, we'll sort from there. But yeah, also at different tier levels within the reward system of the Kickstarter, there's other bonus stuff. There's private Zoom calls between me and the voice actors. That is one thing that I should probably say right now, because this is why I usually have notes. At some point in the next 90 days, I'm going to start a Discord. Not because I want to do a Discord. I kind of don't want to do a Discord. I don't have time for it. However, between BellTube and BellWorks Audio, there ought to be kind of a centralized space for people to go to. And also for some of those reward tiers, when we do group calls, having the Discord itself will be totally public, but there'll probably be a Kickstarter, you know, special backer private channel within that for more of the custom updates, for some of the behind the scenes photography from the voice actors, for maybe some interviews with the authors, those types of things. So yeah, this is not just going to exist in the ether somewhere. This will be as public as I can make it without diminishing the returns that people that have backed at a certain level should rightfully get, rather than just on my YouTube channel. And yeah, Mike's Christmas Carol audio narration is quite good. Totally agree. I really, really liked it. Yeah, John's favorite band is Floyd. You guys should talk Floyd all the time. Topher says, Brian, what has been the most daunting aspect of this endeavor thus far? I'll always say you don't know what you don't know. And that is always the most daunting thing for me in any venture, because you think you probably know. And in this case, I'm starting a company, which I've done a bunch of times before. It's far less complicated than a big nightclub, that's for sure. There's way less moving parts. It doesn't, rely on having decent weather in the state of Minnesota. It doesn't rely on whether there's tourism or not. There's a lot less constraints and variables I need to worry about. But regardless of whatever venture you get into, you don't know what you don't know. And it's the inevitable surprises that I find the most daunting. And I try not to let my mind get too far ahead of going, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? We'll deal with it when we get there. But that is for sure the most daunting stuff, is what am I going to learn along the way that a year from now, I will say to myself, I sure wish I would have known this when I did that Kickstarter launch day live stream, because X, Y, and Z may have been taken care of differently. And the only way you know that is by actually living it and doing it. You don't know what you don't know. And for me, that is the most daunting aspect. It's not working with authors. I love authors. I have lots of friends that are authors. It's not working with narrators. I love them. I respect their work a ton. It's not Audible, because in my particular case, and I am a unique animal when it comes to this, I've been staring at Amazon screens for the better part of a decade with my Bell Flask product. And I know how intentionally murky they are about reporting income, sales, returns, every aspect of how they pay out. I know what a smoke screen they put up to make things virtually impossible to know what's actually going on. And because I've been doing that for the better part of 10 years now, I know what to look for, and I know how to handle Amazon problems when they inevitably occur, and they 100% will occur. You can't be on Amazon as a professional seller for 10 years like I have been and think that there's not going to be problems that happen. Now, in a digital product like this, there's far less moving parts. I have Amazon losing my products in their warehouses every single week. That's not going to happen here. So many of the challenges that I have with Bell Flask, I won't have with BellWorks. But all of that said, they are murky by design when it comes to being transparent about what is owed to somebody. So I think is a bigger daunting problem for other people that get into that space, particularly indie authors that self-publish their own audio. Maybe they pay a narrator and they upload it themselves, and they just kind of rely on Amazon to tell them what they made. And unless you've been digging in those mines of Amazon and clearing the smoke screen, you don't know. And to just take their word for it is not optimal in any regard. So I think That answers the question. Maybe, I don't know. Philip Chase, the best of fantasy, an excellent YouTube channel, by the way. Of the Quilluminati, Mike and John would be excellent audiobook narrators. Rick Thunder, on the other hand, would be out of this world, and that's a fact. You're not wrong there. You're not. Hey, if this company grows, I'm telling you, John's a professional actor. John knows how to act. Got a great question, and we've got a question here from Entropy. What does BellWorks look like to you in 10 years in terms of your catalog growth as a boutique production company? Have you expanded to new genres or book mediums, graphic novels, anthologies, etc.? I doubt it. I suspect we will be. I mean, honestly, I don't know where we're gonna be a year from now, because again, it gets back to that you don't know what you don't know. But I do know what I like, and I do know what I'm passionate about, and that is the driving force of this company. And unless for some reason my personal genre tastes change, I don't see genres changing, because then I'd be chasing what's popular, and that's not what this company is going to be about. This company is going to be about what I'm passionate about, because otherwise I'm not adding much value. Otherwise, I'm just a dude who's got an audiobook company. It's got to be something that I'm fired up about and passionate about. And I give you an example, like romantasy is huge. You're not going to see that here, because I'm not a romantasy reader, and it would be disingenuous for me to go start putting out romantasy books just because they happen to be popular. Luckily enough, one genre that I happen to hold very deep in my heart, if you know me, is lit RPG. And I've been reading this stuff since, I want to say, 2013. So I've been reading lit RPG for 13 years, and it is growing exponentially. I've been asked to be a panelist at Lit RPG Con in Denver, which is going to be in July. So if you're anywhere near Denver in July and you want to come to Lit RPG Con, come say hi. I would love to meet you. But unless my genre tastes change, it's probably going to be exactly where it is. In terms of the catalog itself, kind of depends on a couple of things. It depends on how well the company's doing and how many books we can successfully fund without, again, sacrificing quality for the sake of quantity, because I don't want to do that. My initial thought is to try to put out a book every 10 weeks. If we can accomplish that, that's about 5 books a year. 5 years from now, we got a nice catalog of 25 books. If we go more than that, terrific. That is likely to happen in some of these series that have multiple books, right? So if we're not talking standalones, and all of a sudden one author's got 4 books and they're doing well, the first couple are doing well in audio, then clearly we're going to do that as well. So it could grow a little bit quicker than I anticipate, but that would only be based on the success of a particular author running, more into their series. Like, obviously the big, huge one right now is Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's bonkers. Once you hit a certain level, Amazon will promote you without doing anything. I mean, I can open up my Kindle, and I've got the kind that's got the advertisements that, sit out in front. And all I see when I open it up is their new Harry Potter books and Dungeon Crawler Carl ads and all this stuff, because they want to push what's working. And what's working in those particular cases is there's a lot of books. So hopefully that answers that question. Janny says, I wish your mom could see you now. I wish she could too. I do talk to her every day. I don't know if that's weird or not, but when I, it's really weird. I'm not going to turn this into a maudlin stream, but truly, when a person in your life that you are by far closest to than anybody else departs the earth unexpectedly, it is just life-changing. It's like for me, it's like I have one life before 4:30 in the morning, March 30th, when I got a call that my mom died out of nowhere. And I have a whole nother life on March 30th, 4:31 in the morning of when she's gone. And so just my sensibilities are a little bit shifted from where they were a year ago, because it has to, right? I mean, when your emotional anchor, and like I said, your first person in your life that you're the closest to is no longer here, um, yeah, it definitely changes you. And in this particular case, she would be rooting me on number one fan for sure. She would listen to these audiobooks. She would listen to Lit RPG begrudgingly, but she'd be like, "Oh, my son put it together, so I have to do it." Easily my most number one supporter of all time. From the time that I was a amateur magician in elementary school, which should surprise nobody, from the time that I started playing piano when I was 7 years old, and my mom was in the front row at all my recitals and all the talent shows and all that stuff, up until, the last time I saw my mom, she was in the hospital, and she actually did fine in that surgery. And I said to her surgery was going to be on a Saturday, and it was Wednesday. I was supposed to leave. And I said, "Ma, do you want me to stick around, through your surgery, or what would you like me to do?" And this was out in California. She said, "No, I want you to go home so I have a BellTube video to watch on Friday." So that's kind of the sensibility that I'm bringing to my future moving forward, is that I truly have the most guardian of guardian angels watching over me, because she did in real life. There's no real reason why she wouldn't right now, and she would be psyched. And Janny, my mom loved you. I mean, honestly, the last book she read was To Ride Hell's Chasm, and was absolutely loving it. So it's on my shelf back there. A lot of people have asked me to do a shelf tour, so I will do that in the next 2 months. I'll give a whole room tour so you can see the whole room studio setup. But back behind me is a piece of art my mom painted for me, along with Janny's book, To Ride Hell's Chasm, and also Lonesome Dove, which my mom and I buddy read, really because Mike read it. So Mike, thank you for that, because my mom and I got to do a buddy read of Lonesome Dove, which is pretty incredible. Michael Wayne says, "Just pledged. Can't wait for this to take off. Much success, my man." Michael, thank you so much. And I think, God, I don't know if you're the same guy. I think you are, but congrats on maybe a grandchild. I think maybe. If not, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. The good news is your backing has increased $500 since the stream started. Cool. I'm gonna look at it tonight. It's funny. I looked at it like earlier in the day, and then I kind of went and looked at it a little bit more. It's really hard not to just hit refresh. But I learned back in the bar business when New Year's Eve tickets would go on sale, and they'd be on sale online sometimes. And I would just hit refresh out of panic to find out how quickly we sold out, so I know how much liquor to get and all that stuff. I am disciplining myself a little bit better with the Kickstarter. Kickstarter runs for 30 days. I will drive myself crazy looking at that number for 30 straight days. So I'm limiting it a little bit, but I also want to make sure that I send the appropriate thank yous where there are thank yous to be made. Brad says, "What is the minimum equipment one might need as an amateur audiobook narrator?" It's a really good question. I'm going to defer that to narrators that I know. But the next time I talk to one, I'll ask. I can tell you, you certainly need a good microphone. You need a good computer that has either Pro Tools or some sort of voice software. I happen to use Logic on because I have a Mac that I record for BellTube, but you're going to need some software to record on for sure. Depending on your space, you may or may not need foam along your walls, depending on how much echo you have. You might need carpet if you have a lot of echo. So, there are some technicality stuff that you need to think about on that end. But next time I talk to one of my audio voice narrators, I'll ask. Yeah, Mike says he did his with a simple Yeti Blue mic, but it's far from professional. Yeah, so I mean, the difference is this. So Mike did his Christmas Carol audiobook for a YouTube stream, and that is terrific. It's different when you're uploading to ACX, which is Audible. That's their portal. It's got to meet a lot of different criteria, and it's got to have a lot of different sound, not effects, but just parameters that everything needs to fall within. That's why a post-production, editing house is vitally important. The one that we're using is not on the cheap end of the scale, But again, the whole point of this is to put out the highest level product we can do. So yes, you can certainly do it with a kind of basic setup, but you're gonna want to make it as high quality as you can if you're ever going to do anything on Audible. Epic Caribe? I can't read it from here. Sorry. These classes are great short and they're terrible long. Is it just me or would anyone else love to see video of people auditioning for voice roles? The bloopers. I need bloopers. Oh, it's Pickle Ruby. Hello, sister. Um, yeah, that would be pretty awesome to have blooper reels. I have some blooper reels. I've sent them to, I think, a handful of people. I know Mike, John, and Philip, and Jimmy, and a few others have seen some BellTube outtakes. I'll put some in one of these videos where you get some great F bombs out of me that, like, the coffee maker will start beeping, or my phone will start ringing because I forgot to turn on Do Not Disturb, or I'll be in the middle of a thought. I remember very clearly I was talking about To Ride Hell's Chasm, and I had to go back and reshoot it because the coffee machine was going off, and I just went into an expletive rant on camera, which I later edited out, but maybe I should put that back in. Daniel says, is there much market for graphic novel audio adaptations? It seems like an interesting idea, but probably very niche. That said, a Sega adaptation would be awesome. A saga adaptation. So the first audiobook I ever listened to, I'm going to age myself here, was in 1991. And it was a Batman Nightfall cinematic audiobook. And it had just the sound effects and everything. And this is so long ago, I can't remember if it was on cassette tape or CD, but I think cassette tape. And I think I wore that tape out. I was driving all over the country doing this business that I had started, and I just listened to that thing on repeat over and over and over again, and absolutely fell in love with audiobooks because of this Batman novel, essentially. And then I listened to a lot of audiobooks in the Star Trek universe, and kind of all in that time period. I'm gonna say like mid 90s. So there could be, but I think when you're talking about graphic novels, we're diminishing the kind of the point that the artwork, literally the graphics of a graphic novel, would be gone just to be reading it. So it's not just like words on a page. That medium is really eye focused more so than text focus. Mark's Book Lounge is here. Hello, friends. Hello, Mark's Book Lounge. Brad says, I talk to my brother Doug, who passed every day, and there are many times for various reasons I know he's answered back. Yeah. I mean, I knew my mom so well. I mean, like crazy. And it's nuts because I know 100% in totality what she would tell me back. There's not even like a 99% chance of me knowing what she would tell me. It's 100% chance. So in a way, yeah, I'd love to give her a hug, but I also know that, exactly how she would talk with me. I lost my dad at 13 unexpectedly. He was my only responsible parent. It's absolutely changes you. It's okay to talk to them. I did for many years. Sometimes got tough. Yeah, why not? Honestly, it's more interesting than some people I know. Absolutely. Says, yeah, okay. Where are we here? Philip says, you should revive the Amateur Magician Act, Brian. Top tier supporters of the Kickstarter could get an exclusive show. So, true story. This is before my mom was in the hospital about a year ago, January. There was a new BellTube persona that is a part-time amateur magician, part-time booktuber that was going to make his appearance for the very first time, adding to Funky Mirage, adding to Rick Thunder. There is a new persona in the works, and it's just been backburnered for quite some time. He's hard to get a hold of. He does a lot of amateur magic at various kind of breakfast places, sometimes like diners. He'll go around and do close-up magic for tricks, but he also loves fantasy books. So we're trying to get him back. Kind of fell out of touch with him a little bit. Where are we? Anita says, hello, Anita, by the way. Late to the party. Congrats on the launch, Brian. Thank you so much. You are now a grandpa. See, I can remember like things sometimes randomly. You are very welcome and congratulations. Jared, I am now a founding producer. Jared. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you so much, Jared. I'll send you a thank you message later. But Jared, ladies and gentlemen, philosopher and apparent philanthropist. Yeah, just what a good dude. See, I am telling you that BookTube, if you're contemplating doing YouTube, whether it be BookTube or anything that you have interest in, it's worth doing for so many reasons, not the least of which is just some of the amazing people that you get to meet. And it's not like this secret club that you can only be in if you have a channel, but it does allow you the opportunity to get to know more people when there's video collaborations. And Jared's come on For Whom the Bell Tolls before. I've watched Jared a million times on Jimmy's, Chatting with Nuts show. And these are just people that I may never run into IRL. And yeah, if you're thinking about starting a channel, as the great Philip Chase told me, take the plunge. That was very nice of you, Jared. Thank you so much. Daniel, I think I listened to that Nightfall audio too. It was really good. Yeah, it was really good. It was Bane was in it, and obviously Joker was in it. Yeah, absolutely. Randy Childs, I could be way off. I have no idea what that means. Speak of that village personality that we are speaking of. I won't finish the phrase. John Minton, my brother from the South, ladies and gentlemen, Talking Story has arrived in the chat. It is great to see you here, my brother. And again, we were talking about my mom, and John literally called me every day for like 2 months just to make sure that I was sane, which at the time I was not. So, yeah, John is about the best of us, my friends, no doubt, certainly one of them. And Brad says, just started my own channel a few weeks ago because of the incredible people I've been watching for the last several years. Yeah. And you just never know. I mean, look, when people start BookTube channels or any YouTube channels, I will tell this to everybody watching, whether they're watching tonight or watching 5 years from now, expect very few views for a while because nobody knows you exist yet. And the algorithm is certainly not going to push you out much. The best way you can get views on your channel is to become involved in the community, watch and comment on other people's videos. If they have Discords, participate in their Discords, support them, and you'll find that a lot of the YouTube community, unless there's just this gigantic channel, will want it in turn, the favor as much as possible. I will say, in total candor, this is a tricky time to start a BookTube channel because the algorithm's doing what the algorithm does regarding BookTube stuff, but also there's a plethora of channels. And I went down the list over the weekend of all the BookTube channels that I'm subscribed to, and I could literally watch BookTube 24/7 and still not watch every video. It's just not possible. So it's a bit of a crowded space at the moment. But one thing that I have realized, and John can probably attest to this too, because we started within 6 months of each other. Some of the people that were starting when we started vanished relatively quickly, or they went 6 months or they went a year and just decided it wasn't for them, or their time was spent better elsewhere, or just whatever, kind of lost the mojo for doing it. So there'll always be people exiting as people enter. It's just that there's a lot of people doing it right now too. Take that time to experiment and do crazy, weird things. If you have to have a Rick Thunder in your life, which I know Jared hates, I might have to, if Jared's a founding partner, I might have to Kill off Rick Thunder. I should have put that in the top tier for sure. But Jared would be so happy if I killed off Rick Thunder. Anyway, yeah, take chances. When you're a brand new channel, nobody's watching you yet. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. Get up, do a song and dance show. Who cares? Have fun with it. All right. Talking Story Tingles. That is correct. And John says, congrats on the launch of BellWorks. And thank you so much for backing the Kickstarter. John was, I think, the first or the second person this morning to back it, which is pretty awesome. Do I have a Discord? No, I mentioned this earlier. We're going to start one in the next 90 days, provided that the Kickstarter actually funds, because I want a place for BellTube people to talk and BellWorks questions to come in, for BellWorks submissions to come in, but also in some of the reward tiers, there are private video conversations and audio conversations at different levels, and Discord is really the easiest way to accomplish that. So as much as I'm kicking and screaming because I don't really want to do a Discord, I'm going to do a Discord and hopefully find somebody that will be a moderator that knows what they're doing, because clearly I do not. John says, do it's fun for you. Who has more fun on their channel than John and Jacob, by the way, right? I mean, have you ever tuned in to a Talking Story video and seen them just morose? They're always having a fun time. So yeah, they're doing what's fun for them. Michael Wayne says, it took me 3 years of watching BookTube to be able to answer one question on Alan's Jeopardy. You guys, I'm going to get slaughtered on that show. No doubt. There's no doubt. And even in the unlikely chance that somehow I beat out Kim and Amanda, there's no way I am beating Mindlin. Zero. I will literally bet $0 that I would ever beat Mindlin ever on Book Jeopardy. I think I could probably take Bengus Khan. Bengus, I think I could probably take you, but Mindlin, absolutely not. No way. Am I married? I am not married. Interesting. Well, I don't know what that part was interesting. Oh, I have channel plans, no doubt. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that, you're keeping things fun for you. Definitely do it fun. Yeah. And Ethan knows Mindlin's a beast. Nobody's beating him. They can have the championship. Sarah Reeds might be able to take on Mindlin. That's the only one I can think of that might, maybe, we'll see. TF says, I recall you previewing the magician character a long time ago in a thumbnail when I got the name Randy Childs. I have no idea. My memory is terrible. Rusty is his first name. Rusty is his first name. I can't really tell you what the last name is at the moment, but his first name is Rusty. And he is an amateur magician / lover of fantasy, sci-fi, and lit RPG. It's going to be good. Where are we here? Sarah's back to making videos again. Oh, very cool. I had no idea. I got to take that. Yeah. Yeah. Sarah versus Mindlin is like a Super Bowl for sure. I don't know who I don't know who I would bet on. They're both not only very well read, very widely read, their memories are bonkers. I don't know how they do it, because even though I've read a lot of books, and my brother from the South in the chats read a lot of books, our brains are like sieves. Honest to God, if we don't schedule conversations within 3.5 weeks of us reading it, just don't, because we've long forgotten. But Mindlin and Sarah Reeds, yeah, those guys are just, they're behemoths, as they would say. Yeah, my brain is a colander. Exactly. And Janice says, Alan should do a head-to-head Jeopardy game with Mindlin and Sarah Reeds. That would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Actually, what I really think should happen is Alan should be a contestant against Mindlin and Sarah and have either me or Jimmy host it. That would be awesome. Although that means I would have to write the questions. So Jimmy should be the host. Jimmy would actually enjoy writing those questions, I think. Yeah. And Anita says, and they're calm and composed, unlike me shouting answers without my turn. Yeah, I like that idea better, right? Yeah, let's get Alan on it. Let's see how Alan does on his own Jeopardy show. I don't know. Are you guys reading anything of great interest? We haven't really talked too much about books right now. I am just starting my buddy reread of Silverthorn, which I'm reading with Mike's Discord, and of course Philip and John are joining Mike and myself in this, and we're going to talk about this book over on Talking Story. Yeah, no, we're not going to talk about. I'm so mixed up. Quilluminati book is on Talking Story. This book we're going to talk about when we finish A Darkness at Sethanon over on Mike's channel. All right, see, getting my brains back together, and that's a fact. Pint glass and other merch available in the merch store. Okay, where were we here? Alan was once a contestant in Charity Jeopardy. Yeah. And I have to say, the broken binding editions are gorgeous, and huge shout out to one of our Velvet Lounge patron levels members. Many of you guys know her, Sarah Beth. She's certainly a regular contributor to a lot of chat live streams, and she sent me she sent the next question just threw me. It's so funny. She sent me the Rift War books that the broken binding did. Let's answer this one. Are you gay? In the happy sense or in the sexy sense? Straight. Unbelievably enough, right? Anyway, okay. Next question. That's a good question, though. I should just leave this up there. I should leave this up there and make this a thumbnail for this might have to be a thumbnail. Oh God, excellent. Joe Byrne, JCM Byrne. Hey, Brian, best of luck with the Kickstarter. Thank you so much for your support earlier today, Joe. I did notice that. And that's another book I'm going to be reading is book 7 in the Hybrid Helix series by Joe Byrne. I think that's going to be in April. That is probably going to be in April. Absolutely. So you did support today, and I thank you for it. And apparently I'm a character in an upcoming JCM Hybrid Helix book, which is, gotta say, is kind of awesome. I gotta say, I did ask him to kill me off, though, so I don't know whether I live or I die, but I have a running joke with a bunch of author friends of mine that I would like to appear in their book for like 2 sentences and die a horrific death in their books. And in Joe's case, because the majority of the setting takes place on a sentient space station, I thought I should be jettisoned out of an airlock and into space, but I think he had other plans for me, so we're going to find out. Michael is reading The Gate of the Pharaoh Gods before I start Dead House Gates. Yeah, those are totally very different books. Yeah, but I loved them both. You know, gosh, I'm thinking about couple of things about the channel that I want to just mention while I've got y'all here is a captive audience. I am very, very likely going back to doing quarterly TBR videos. The monthly TBR video, for me, honestly, I did it last week because I didn't have a TBR video for first quarter and I needed to make a video, and I wasn't overly proud of that video. I'm never overly proud of any of my TBR videos because they're not all that interesting for me to make. It's just a personal thing with me. I don't get fired up to do TBR videos unless it was something like I did with Sylvia with Library Unbounded when we played her Two Towers game, The Lord of the Reeds, and that was super fun. That made a TBR interesting for me. But they don't perform very well for me on my channel at all. It got like half the average amount of views that a typical BellTube video would get. So I'm looking at it like, I don't really love doing them. The subscribers that are subscribed to the channel don't really watch them at least 50% as much as any other video that I do. Why am I doing it? So I think I'm going to probably go back to quarterly after March, and we shall see from there. But I don't know how I came up with what I was talking about there. Anyway, TBR videos. Wistful Ascending is this. Oh, John, I'm telling you, Hybrid Helix, you're going to have a tough time with, because John is the king of the book one, and then he moves on. And this happened with Robin Hobb. He started, the Farseer trilogy. Every one of those was his consecutive book of the month for 3 months running. And then he hasn't picked up the live ship traders yet. This is going to happen to you with Hybrid Helix. I'm telling you, you are not going to be able to put book 2 of this on pause for anywhere nearly as long as you have for live ship. But the truth is that they read really fast. And I will tell you, like, for you aspiring authors out there that want booktubers to, or not necessarily booktubers, but just kind of want to get a little bit easier into people's hands and excited about reading, Joe is really quite smart in that he writes books that are not only digestible, but they're a pretty set length every book. I mean, I can look behind me on the shelves and almost every single book is identical in length. And that inspires me to pick it up. I love The Bound and the Broken. I love that series. Ryan Collett is one of my favorite authors just because he seems like the coolest guy in the world. And he has been so incredibly helpful to other indie authors that want to learn from his success and to maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that he ran into. The problem is that his books keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And his last book of Empires of Dust came out last May. I had been current on all of his stuff until then. And then I saw this like 1,200 page book, and it just kind of keeps getting, I'd say, kicked down the road, but I'd break my foot, kind of like you hauled down the road because of the sheer length. Now, I know these books read quick, but my point is that what Joe Byrne does with his books, they're like 400 pages or less, and then he just puts another book out. And I like that approach. That gets me to read much faster. Obviously, Ryan has a very winning formula for what he's doing, so it's not to begrudge that. But for some people have asked me, am I current in The Bound and the Broken? I'm not, because I'm reading The Wars of Light and Shadow. I just finished Malazan, and to throw that sucker in there would have been really difficult. So sometime this spring, I will get caught up with that. We have Nolan says, I'm slowly working my way through Sword of the Lictor, started listening to Fall of Hyperion in honor of Dan Simmons. Okay, a couple quick things. Sword of the Lictor happens to be my favorite book of the 4 books of the Book of the New Sun, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I listened to Fall of Hyperion, and it's one of the few science fiction books that I haven't read, but I actually listened to on audio. And the reason why is because I was really busy reading something else, and I had loved Hyperion so much that I just wanted to try it on audio and see if I would like Fall of Hyperion. And, I actually kind of like that book more so in hindsight than I did at the time, because by most accounts, I think you'll find 99 out of 100 people prefer Hyperion over Fall of Hyperion. It's just a seminal book of science fiction, right? But Fall of Hyperion, I think, is better than a lot of people give it credit for. And I enjoyed it on audio quite a bit. It's really different than Hyperion, but I'm glad you're listening to it on audio. Make sure you let me know how you think about it. Joe Burns says, you are a major character in Prey of Angels, and I do not die. Oh my God. Okay, so if you guys ever wanted to see me somehow on Ascension space station in the distant future, go get Hybrid Helix. Book 1 is Wistful Ascending. It's awesome. If you want to be the Sean Bean of books, kinda, right? I mean, I just think it would be funny. TBR videos stress me out. Yeah, I just don't have that much fun telling people what I'm going to read. And it's weird. Mike has said this forever, that people get more excited about what you're going to read than what you actually did read. And he's not wrong. I don't know. The other part of it is this, is that I go into every book virtually blind to the story. I never, ever read the back of any book ever. I don't even care if it's a book 1. I don't read it. if it's a book that I'm going to read, I just decide I'm going to read it. I also very, very rarely, if ever, DNF anything. So when I'm in, I'm in. And if I should have read the back flap, shame on me. Oops. But so I don't really add a lot of value to a TBR, because when I'm holding a book up and saying, hey, you know, I'm going to read this month. I know it's a fantasy book. I have no idea what it's about. Thank you. I mean, it's not that compelling of content. So anyway, all right, where were we? Here we go here. Anita, I just filmed a TBR video after 1.5 years later. Well, Anita, you've got your channel still rocking. Scott says, John not continuing with Queen Hob does not give a tingle. I'm telling you, Scott, Scott, put in the comments if you've read Wars of Light and Shadow, because if you haven't, just knowing how much you love Realm of the Elderlings and knowing how much you love Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire, I would be completely shocked if you were not a big fan of the Wars of Light and Shadow. I think it's absolutely up your alley. Yeah, Joe says every book in Hybrid Helix is between 118,000 and 120,000 words. I mean, that is a very specific, tight window. It's why all the books look similar on the shelf, which as a book, collector, that's kind of cool that the books are all about the same. Absolutely. Brad Miller says, just joined an associate sponsor, got to save my shekels for eventual development editor. Awesome. Hey, and look, I think that the lowest tier is $5, right? I mean, or I think you can even contribute $1. So anything helps. We'll get this thing going. It's going to be great. And John from Talking Stories says, got to get to Malazan and live ship and finish Greenbone. It is so hard being the king of book ones. Yeah. Okay. So you should finish Greenbone first. You've got one book to go. Do that. Then the ball's in your court. I personally think you're going to like the Realm of the Elderlings better than Malazan. Just from I know you as well as anybody. I think it's more your jam. I think you're going to appreciate Malazan. I think you are going to understand it. I don't think it's above your pay grade for understanding, with the themes and the plots of the books and keeping track of stuff. I just think the particular characters in the Realm of the Elderlings are your kind of characters more so than Malazan. But if you're going to go back and forth, it's possible. I've done it. But I think you should rock out Greenbone first and then hit live ship. Chance Dillon, author of Mercy, book 1, Tears of the Fallen, sitting right back up there on my shelf. Another book I need to get to. And I was honest with Chance. He sent me the book. He was so kind to do it. I said, look, I am right in the middle of reading Malazan. A huge epic military fantasy right now is not in the cards, but I will get to it this year in 2026. And he was super, super cool about it. So thank you. And thank you for the congrats, Chance. Thank you for, I think you finished your second book too, which is great, or close to it. Kellen says, late to the party, but just want to say congrats on the Kickstarter. I'm looking forward to some great audio. I am looking forward to hopefully bringing that to you. Absolutely. Scott says, it's on the list. The new audiobooks being produced makes me very happy. Wars of Light and Shadow. Yeah, I forgot you're mostly an audiobook listener. Well, there's going to be a big announcement this coming Thursday, so that's pretty exciting. John, the Plant Daddy. Hey, how about that? Hello, Brian. I just jumped in on the Kickstarter. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And a heart from Chance. Yeah, I tell you one thing. So I put a post on X, and I don't know if it was arrogant of me to do this. Maybe you guys can tell me. But when you go into Kickstarter, there are tutorial videos for people that have never created a Kickstarter before. And I am of the opinion that if a company is putting out a tutorial video on how to use their platform properly, at the very least, I should watch it and make my own assessment if I think that makes sense, or if it doesn't, whatever. And so I watched them all. And it occurred to me a couple of things. They are YouTube videos embedded, so you can see how many people had watched the videos. And it was less than 2,000 people had watched their tutorial videos on how to do a proper Kickstarter. And that blew me away because I was like, there are thousands and thousands of Kickstarters. Why wouldn't somebody at least take the time to learn the best practices of at least what they say you should do? So I put that up there. People are like, I don't know. I did a Kickstarter. I just went and did it and worked fine. And that's probably very true. But I have become, through my experiences in different businesses, extraordinarily detail oriented. And if I'm going to do this, I don't want to mess it up by some stupid error or a dumb mistake that I made because I simply was not willing to pay attention a little bit. And it was funny because I was sitting with a legal pad taking notes the whole time while I'm watching these tutorial videos. And the biggest note took up half the page in huge letters saying, "This is not hard." Exclamation point, circle. And so I watched all these videos to come to the conclusion that this is not hard to set up the Kickstarter. But I was glad that I watched those videos because I think I owed it to everybody that's involved with, the creation of the book and the narration and just everybody, that at least if I'm going to be the point person on trying to gather the funds to make this happen, I should at least know at least what the platform thinks I should know. So yeah, that was an interesting experience I had. Yes, Anitha, the Wars of Light and Shadow is getting new audio, and I believe there's going to be a conversation. I think it's announced. If not, Jake, I'm sorry for announcing it, but I want to say this Thursday night over on Nerd Level Rising, and I believe I'm going to be on that as well, talking about audios for the Wars of Light and Shadow, and I suspect Janny will be part of that too, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm not spoiling anything in there. I have books 2 and 3 pre-order. They released this month. I already own books 1, 10, and 11. Yeah. It's a really weird deal. I'm not going to get into stealing Jandy's thunder. She'll probably talk about it Thursday. But the bottom line is that her publisher, a traditional publisher, this is an 11 book series, and they put out book 1 on audio, book 10 on audio, and book 11 on audio, which makes like no sense. And so books 2 and 3 are coming out now in March. That's what we're going to be talking about, celebrating. And I suspect the remainder of that series will also come out in audio. I've listened to book 1. It's phenomenal. Really good voice actor doing everything. It's transportive fantasy. It's really, really good. I prefer the hardbacks for Wars of Light and Shadow. They're a little hard on the wrist. You're not kidding. I'm telling you. I remember reading Wheel of Time and getting pissed that these hardcovers were killing my hands. I was sitting right there literally for 4 months reading Wheel of Time. And as these books kept getting bigger and bigger, 450,000 words plus, like my hands were crying. Yeah. Samwise is here. Hello, fellow Minnesotan. We are getting unseasonably nice weather here. So, hey, Samwise, he says, "Hey, Brian, sorry if this has been asked, but is backing the Kickstarter to get the audiobooks or to help start up the company?" Great question. I did answer that earlier. It's in the FAQ on the Kickstarter. Short version is no, you don't get the audiobooks for 2 reasons. One, Audible won't let me just give them out as a reward because of their exclusivity. 2, Kickstarter won't let me reimburse with proof of purchase because they won't allow reimbursements and they won't allow gift cards. So between Audible and Kickstarter, they have very specific set rules regarding audio. So hopefully that answers the question, but you'll get the company started. And Tori from Tori Talks, author of The Bloodstones, Legends of the Brewhigh, Cold Silver for Souls, and of course, the Teenage Supernatural, but it's not really YA. It's for everybody phased. She's here in the chat. How about that, Tori? Boom, boom, boom. just knock those out right off the top of my head because they're all awesome books. Tori, thank you. And by the way, when you guys go onto the Kickstarter, there's 2 videos. The very top one has me and voice actor Jonathan McLean talking. And huge shout out, by the way, if Jonathan happens to be watching this later, tonight is the Audie Awards, which is Audible's, big, or not Audible, but just audio's premier Oscars basically for voice acting and narration, and I am sure he's pretty keyed in on that tonight. I don't know if he's a nominee this year or not, but I know he's won them before. But I don't remember what I was saying now. But so anyway, Jonathan is in that top video, and in the second video there's a bunch of booktubers, and you guys know all of them, that are talking about the idea of BellWorks as a concept. And yeah, Tori was one of them. So thank you. And yeah, Scott, Colin Mace is the audio narrator for Janny's Wars of Light and Shadow. He also does great work on John Gwynn's Bloodsworn trilogy. So if you've listened to John Gwynn's Bloodsworn and you like the voice actor, Wars of Light and Shadow might be for you. Amazing. Can I hire you as my PR agent? Actually, Pippin needs to talk to you. Some of you may or may not be aware, I'm actually Pippin the cat, one of Tori's couple of cats, his agent, and he has not seen a royalty check in quite some time. We'll take care of that offline, Tori. I certainly don't want to, call you out publicly for denying Pippin the cat his fair share. Derry is here. Bugger, I lost track of time. I'm here now. Hi, Brian. Hi to one of my favorite people on the entire planet Earth, and that is saying something all the way from New Zealand is Derry. And I got the most lovely card from Derry this past holiday season. It was just like so cool to get an envelope from New Zealand. That's the power of friendship on BookTube. It is just amazing. Anita, about to say that you are great at marketing, Brian. I am passionate about stuff that I like. And a lot of people will tell, they'll say, oh, somebody's really good in sales, or I really hate sales, or you're a good marketer. And I know John from Talking Story has been referred to as, the best book salesman on BookTube. And it's not that John's out trying to sell you on a book. Basically, what he's doing is experiencing and telling you his experience with his books or books that he reads, much like you would for a restaurant that you just had the best meal of your life of, or a movie that you absolutely love and you want to go tell everybody about it. I don't view that so much as selling, but that's exactly what it is. You're selling the movie, you're selling the restaurant, you're selling, I bought this car, it's the best car I ever drove in my life. That is selling a car. And there's a big difference between trying to hustle somebody when you know deep in your heart they're not getting what they're paying for, versus being authentic and passionate about something you absolutely love. And like I said, YouTube in general, if the people that were on YouTube that you guys watch as booktuber, fans like I am, if we were in it for the money, we'd be talking about economics and real estate, finance, crypto. Those are the categories that YouTube advertisers pay a lot of money for. Book content, gaming content, not so much, not even in the same world. So when somebody is here on BookTube passionate about something, it's coming from the heart, because it's not for the cash, for sure. So anyway, that's it. Pippin will be talking to his layers. Yeah, he may be. He may be. Sandwich. Will Rick Thunder's legendary autobiography finally get an audiobook from BellWorks? It is possible. It is possible. I make no promises. I have to say that our general genre is fantasy and its subgenre is science fiction, lit RPG. But a Rick Thunder audiobook, it could wind up to be a Kickstarter bonus, potentially. We'll see. Maybe we'll do that. And Derry says, genuine excitement, true inspiration shows. Thank you so much. Absolutely. And felines, you see, Brad, I'm old enough to know that song. Okay. So Derry probably does too, but Derry's younger than me. Samwise says, don't you know, Brian, I've been reliably informed that all booktubers are just in it for the money, even if they say they aren't. We've been exposed. Did I just blow it? Am I no longer allowed in the meetings, Sam? Is that it? Is both my Minnesota BookTube membership and my national BookTube membership and my international BookTube membership officially revoked because we're not supposed to say we're making gazillion dollars talking about books that were written 40 years ago? I'm looking at you, Silverthorne. Ah, God, it's a classic. I am funny sometimes. I make myself laugh. John's passion is inspiring but terrible on my wallet. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of terrible on my wallet, he was here earlier, but nobody has been singularly more responsible for me buying more books than Mike. Uh, Literally half the shelves up there, although not Melez and Mike. I know you're not watching anymore, but I passed you. But so many of these books back there, including Lonesome Dove, that I got to read with my mom, were because of Mike. So, yeah, John's the sales guy for sure, but Mike has been the most detrimental on my wallet. Derry says, "Oh my God, Brian, get Rick Thunder doing the ads at the end of BellWorks produced audio." Maybe. We'll see. It's going to be up to the author if they want me to do that or not. I am not going to step on the author in any shape or form. Entropy says, "I appreciate that you're doing this purely out of passion. I'm in. Thank you so much." Tori says, "Yeah, we make the big bucks over here on BookTube, BMWs and cocktail parties all day." I mean, it's true. We start off the morning with a cocktail party. We then drive our BMWs. We then have cocktail parties in the BMWs. Then we drive the BMWs very badly into cocktail parties. It's a whole nother disaster. But no, she's correct. Brian, did you just play the cat's paw? I don't know. Maybe. Yes. Mark is driving a Lambo doing BookTube. Awesome. Good morrow, Britain. Hello, some oaky dude. Good to see you here. Very cool. Very cool. So does anybody have any exciting books coming up for March that you want to tell us about? Because we've been going almost 2 hours and I was only going to do an hour. I figured I'd come on and hang out with you guys for like an hour and just chill, but we'll go a little bit longer, I suppose. Yes, Tori, you do need to fly your private jet over to my place one of these days. You got to let me know in advance because what I can do is there's 3 helicopter pads on top of my house. I can move the 3 helicopters and we can make room for the private jet to just land. So you should be fine there. I just started Jade City. Britain says it's quite good so far. Absolutely. And I believe the first chapter of that book might be called Twice Lucky, which is the name of the restaurant in Jade City in Janloon. And I told Fauna Lee in a chat, she was on somebody's channel, and I put it in the chat that even though I am never, ever, ever doing a bar again, even I'm never doing it. But if I were to do another bar or a restaurant, I would call it the Twice Lucky. It is the best hospitality bar slash restaurant slash club name I've heard in years and years and years. I would steal that from her in a minute, but no, thank you. We are not doing that. And Bex is here. Hello, Bex. And Kai says, "Hey, Brian, just finished hanging out with Crifton. He told me you were live, so I want to say hi. Congrats. I think you have a book out maybe too. So that's awesome." Derry says, "I might read further into Vorkosian Saga this month." That's awesome, Derry, that you are reading new books. And K Fox, yes, yes. Only if there's a cocktail party on the jets, obviously. We do that. We do that. Exactly. Michael, you don't have a channel, you drive a Dodge Stratus. So I'm saying, you just do it. Yes. Okay. Brad did his March TBR on his channel. Very cool. Neetha, got to go. Good luck, Brian. Have a great evening, chat. Thanks for being here, Neetha. You are awesome. You get all the loyalty points in lieu of Alan, who is somehow not here. I don't know. Yeah, I think my BuckTube money got lost in the mail. Could be, Derry. Brent wants to know, is Hilo the one I'm supposed to hate or their grandfather because their grandfather is a piece of work? I'm not saying anything. I will not spoil that amazing book. Tori says, making steady progress in War and Peace. Also reading Eyes of the Void this month. Final Architecture 2 by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And super excited. Very cool. So I literally read either War and Peace or Crime and Punishment in high school, and I don't remember which one, and I don't remember what it was about. So there's a 50-50 chance I've read War and Peace. So, you guys went to high school in the 1700s, okay? I'm a Highlander. There can be only one. There we go. Only if I open a bar, I have to call it the Dripping Bucket. That is correct. You do. Mark says, I'm starting a book called Murder at the Black Cat Cafe by Saishi Yokomizo. You can tell I'm on like day 1400 consecutive of Japanese Duolingo. My Japanese is terrible. Oh my gosh. Sumimasen. I'm just looking out here. Yeah. Jeff says, I just have to figure out how to squeeze the Dripping Bucket into book 3. Okay. All right. Very cool. How we doing? Well, folks, we've been on for a couple of hours, and I think I'm going to wind it down a little bit because it's been a pretty long day. I got up a lot earlier than I usually do because my brain was just amped up to see what Kickstarter actually is when you go live with it, being the first time I've ever done a Kickstarter. So I've been up a little bit longer than usual, and I have a few things that I want to take care of around the house tonight, including planning this week's video that I need to do. And by the way, that's awesome, Mark, that you're starting the Count of Monte Cristo. Very, very cool. What a fascinating book. And it's amazing that certain books make the rounds on BookTubes, obviously that one was published a very, very long time ago, but it's amazing how books like Lonesome Dove and Shogun and whatever all of a sudden become BookTube darlings, 50 years after they came out. But it's a very, very cool. I appreciate this very much. BellWorks will be epic. Homeric. There he is. All right. Catching the very end. You're the best, bud. Thank you, Alan. I'm excited to do some stuff with you in the future. No doubt about that. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it's been a long day. I'm going to go plan a video for you guys for this week. I want to thank you guys for being here live. This is a big day for me. I love trying new things, and however this goes, we are in it together, good, bad, or otherwise. I want to say thank you to anybody who's watched this on Team Replay. You know who you are. The link to the Kickstarter, now that would be funded in like 10 minutes if I started Kickstarter. Kickstarter, however, will be in the description. See, this is how you know I'm going totally off script. Kickstarter links will be in the description. When the video goes up, I will put it in a pinned comment as well. There's all kinds of levels you can check out there. There are 2 incredibly cool and fun and exciting videos on the Kickstarter page itself. Thank you for whatever level of support you're able to do. And if it's just spreading the word about the Kickstarter, that helps more than you know, because there are people that supported the Kickstarter this morning that I've never seen in a chat before. I've never seen their name before. I have no idea who they are. And for some of you who are kind of perpetual lurkers out there, you are seen, and I appreciate you so much. And even though we may not know each other, you having some faith in this idea that I've got is incredibly meaningful to me. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to the people that were in chat tonight. Again, I thought we'd go an hour. We went 2, which is very cool. And I will see people Thursday over on Jake's channel, and then I'm going to see people Saturday over on Tom Orange's channel, and then in a couple of weeks I'm on John's channel, and I suspect I'll be making the rounds of BookTube throughout the month of March, as this Kickstarter does go till April 1st, just to make sure that we get as much exposure to brand new people as possible. And if they believe in this vision and it makes sense to them, that they get an opportunity to support it as we get off the ground floor. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thanks to everybody in Team Replay. And yes, of course, I will be on Book Jeopardy, getting crushed by both K-Fox and Amanda. It's going to be just, yeah, it's going to be a disaster. Literally, unless every category is Rick Thunder related, I am in big trouble when I go on Alan's channel for Book Jeopardy. You guys are the greatest. Stay positive, everybody. And I will see you guys later on this week in a new video. And if you've got questions, throw them in the comments below. And I answer all the comments. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great night, everybody.